Synchronicity Talk Radio for your mind, body, and soul. I'm your host, Marie Benard, and today's guest is Alannah Myles. So we just played Black Velvet and Trouble, which is from her latest album. Hi, welcome to the show, Alannah.
Oh, thank you, Marie. How are you?
I'm fantastic, thanks. It's so good to have you on the show again. It's been a while.
Thank you. I'm so glad that you indulged me in a broadcast because this time it's live, and I don't believe it was last time. Nonetheless, that doesn't matter. But I'm filled with less ponderance than perhaps I was, a year ago.
Mm-hmm. It seemed like at the time there was a lot that you seemed to need to get off your chest about the struggles that you had earlier on in your music career as well.
Well, your show is not the place to do that.
Well, I was happy to have you on the show, and I'm just curious.
Enter.
Oh, believe me, I vent all the time on this show.
I suppose that's what reality TV is comprised of.
Well, thank you again for being on the show. And I'm curious, Alannah, what has been your journey now since the last time we spoke to you? You had that opportunity to get that off your chest, and so since then, what has changed in your life?
Let's see. What's changed is I've been able to manage my pain a little more. We have choices. We can do as the doctors say, and we can take the pain that bypasses the stomach. So we make a safety valve for the stomach to survive, but it'll whack us out, and we're on a morphine drug that whacks the pain right out of us so that we can get up and walk. But I've opted not to obliterate pain because I believe. I know this sounds altruistic, I know, but I can, and I wish I could explain in fine detail why. But pain is a necessary ingredient for our spiritual development.
Mm-hmm. So
I had to, wipe out enough pain for me to continue without crying every day, but at the same time, enough to listen to my body and what it's trying to tell me, and my dreams and where they're trying to lead me, so that I could follow up the path of my spirituality and get closer to my maker to find out the answers that I need to move forward. And in doing so, that's perhaps the change.
So, Alannah, I'm curious about what are some of the things that you do on a daily or weekly basis as part of your spiritual practice?
Well, for example, before you called, I was in quite a panic because I had to get to a live interview with Marie Benard. I was not ready, but I stopped, I paused to light 2 candles. Don't ask me why I lit 2. One for you, one for me. I don't know. One for me, one for my little pussycat Ariel. I don't know. But somehow or other I needed to pause and do that. By listening to that one very small, it only detained me a few seconds, but it seemed to be important for me to do it in order to draw light, or perhaps to draw the dark that I know is out there and threatens someone. A person who's striving for light will always attract darkness. And in order to dispel it, we have to do things in our mind that aid us to feel a sense of protected, particularly in our own homes.
Thank you for sharing that, Alannah. And I'm curious. The other day I was looking on your YouTube page, which is youtube.com/Alannah Myles official, if anyone wants to check that out. But I was listening to the song Bad for You, and I was noticing there was a lyric in there, even I'd run from me if I could. And I'm wondering now, I don't know, is that really how you were feeling at the time, or was that just a lyric?
Really funny line by Desmond Child, who was like a mogul in America, songwriting mogul. He has written "Living on a Prayer" for Bon Jovi and many share hits and many other 80s, 90s hits. And we were put together, me and the fellow that wrote "God Was One of Us," named Eric Bazillion from the Hummers. No, not the Hummers. The something starts with an H band. Can't remember. Anyway, brilliant songwriters, and I was put with them, and he saw my image as somebody. Firstly, he was envious of me in a relationship that I had with one of the other writers who was a nice-looking, attractive blonde, sweet guy. And I won't mention any names, but he didn't like how I was so. It was so easy for me to pal around, and his sexual preference made it difficult for him with the other sex. And so I was envied for being so. It was so easy for me to be one of the boys, even though I was a girl. Mm-hmm. And I don't know whether that was his motive. I really don't know, and it doesn't really matter. I shouldn't even be bothered analyzing it. But it was very cruel what was hurled at me in the session when we wrote the song. And although I'm smart enough to know a clever line when I see it, he wanted the song to be all about what a ball buster I was. And please, could I please have some respite? Like maybe we could have a 2-line Beatles bridge that says how good I am. And he wouldn't have any part of this. And instead he decided he was going to argue with me in front of Eric Bazillion, who was just red-faced, couldn't believe the disrespect. You know, who do I think I was? I had this one hit, and now I'm professing to be the, you know, gift to all songwriters, and that, you know, whatever, to prove his point, he got nasty. And I basically Judas kissed him on the side of the face, meaning I wanted to plow him, but instead I kissed him, betrayed him with that kiss into thinking that everything was good and all fine, and I was going to allow this. But instead all I was doing was hanging up our indifferences to finish the song. And what happened was I walked. I'd given my input. It was no longer needed. I was, pointed to the door. I gave the Judas kiss. I walked. I went to the fireplace. I stared at it for a few hours, wondering how could people be so cruel? Why would they? We were all here to create. We're all on the same page. What motivates people? And when I got back, Eric Bazillion, bless his heart, the God Was One of Us fellow, he from the Hooters. That was his band. And he wrote, I know I got a good side too, and I could do some good for you. But I'm bad for you. So the juxtaposition had to be someone who was so awfully, terribly awful, even to themselves. They'd even run for themselves if they could. But yet they had some good, you know. So to me, bless Eric's spiritual heart, he knew what I was going for, and he did it in 2 lines or less, and then added a harmonica, innocent but Dylan-y like harmonica solo to it, before the chorus comes back in, and to me, I thought it was brilliant. Now I have a story to tell.
That's awesome. I did notice the bit at the end where maybe you could do some good for him, and then I was surprised to hear it go like back into it again. But I'm bad for you. So it was a conflict between, for whatever existed in that triad. A writing triad. It was a conflict that made the song work. But ironically, nothing could have made it work on the radio, even though people really do wonder, what the hell? There were too many enemies. There were too many people standing in my way. I got too big for my britches in Canada, and a lot of people were going to, a lot of people loved what I did and so on, but then with that comes the darkness of a lot of people not wanting you to have what you have, and maybe in positions of power of, wielding it for personal reasons, and I that was my cue. I should have taken from a group like Aerosmith to continue